by former General Officer Commanding GOC 1 Div of the Nigerian Army, Major General Danjuma Ali Keffi, retired, on the death of former Chief of Army Staff Lieutenant General Ibrahim Attahiru, has raised questions about the demise of the late general. Ali Keffi, who was scheduled to receive the late Army Chief in Kaduna, pointed to the sudden change of time for Attahiru's trip to Kaduna, the change of aircraft, change of airport of landing from the military airstrip to the Kaduna International Airport, his landing in the turbulent, stormy weather, and the air-shattering explosion that occurred before the crash. He also pointed to the fact that there was no crater or impact on the crash area, noting that the bodies of the passengers were flung out of the aircraft and burnt beyond recognition long before the aircraft came down, a strong indication that there was an explosion. During an interview on Arise News Night on Tuesday, Ali Keffi doubled down on his assertion that the aircraft exploded mid-air.
First and foremost, it's important to put this in the proper perspective, right? Lieutenant General Ibrahim Attahiru, the late Chief of Army Staff who died in that ill-fated plane crash on the 21st of May, 2021, was highly committed in the fight against insurgency, terrorism in the country. And within the short period of his time, of his headship of the Nigerian Army, we all witnessed tremendous progress in the security situation, largely in the northwest and other parts of the country. We were approaching the tarmac to receive him, and the weather was really atrocious. It was really heavily. In fact, there was ice particles, and I believe the aircraft, we sighted it from a distance, right, descending to land. It was at about treetop level. So when we rounded the bend to the tarmac, we prepared to go and receive him at the foot of the aircraft, and I even directed my aide-de-camp then that he should get the orderly to come with 2 umbrellas for us to listen. So, believing that by the time we got on the tarmac, right, the aircraft would be taxiing to a stop. So we didn't sight the aircraft on the runway, and we looked frantically around, then saw a burning flame by the side of the runway. It was the aircraft burning. Now, like I said, the aircraft was at treetop level when we sighted it coming to this. So the altitude wasn't so high. Now, if an aircraft should fall from that altitude, from that height, it will fall like a box. I mean, it wouldn't disintegrate. But again, if it fell from that height, and then this, right, the impact, it will come with dead weight, heavy weight, and there will be some crater that is borrow some hole into the ground. And let's not forget, it was on the soft grass, not on the hard tarmac, on the hard runway. So, but there wasn't anything like that. And also, we looked around. There was no corpses around. It was later we saw the corpses strewn some distance away from the aircraft, and unfortunately they were on fire. Apparently they were in flames at the time the aircraft is in. Now, if there wasn't an explosion in that aircraft, that mid-air explosion, they would have come down without aircraft to the ground, and they would be strapped to their seat, perhaps on the ground with that distance. But that was not the case. They were flung out of the aircraft, which I'm not an expert in aviation. I'm not an expert in this, but common sense, right? It was indicated as an explosion happened mid-air, and that was why they were flown out, and that was why the aircraft did not come out in full, that is, in its full form. It came out in debris, wreckage, and did not have that force to cause crater on the ground.
Joining us now on the Morning Show to discuss the latest statement by Major General Danjuma Ali Keffi, retired, is Air Vice Marshal Gbolahan Adekunle, retired, former Chief of Training and Operations at the Nigerian Air Force. Welcome to the Morning Show, Air Vice Marshal Adekunle. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Dr. Abbasi.
Well, thank you very much. Well, you listen to your colleague, Air Vice Marshal Danjuma Ali Keffi, raising conspiracy theories about the death of Lieutenant General Ibrahim Attahiru on 21st May 2021 on his way to Kaduna to attend the personal parade of recruits. What do you think of the allegations by General Ali Keffi? Or do you think that if there is no merit to those allegations, will you accuse him of sour grapes, considering the fact that the second leg of his submission is that he's asking President Tinubu to look also into the fact that he was arrested, he was detained, and he was removed because he was involved in attahiru's attempt to go after terrorism financiers, whom he's accusing of being behind that accident, and also top officials within the military also being behind terrorism financing. Is there any merit to his claims, in your view, having been also in service, I think, at the time?
First, I'd like to start by asking the good Lord to continue to rest the souls of our departed colleagues, General Attahiru, and all those who were with him on that faithful day, to continue to grant them eternal rest and console and comfort their families. Because some of the things I've heard in the general's interview, to say the least, shocking. Shocking in the sense that we as military colleagues must have respect for ourselves, whether in life or in death. Moreover, these people that you are talking about have widows, they have family members who are still alive. I wonder how excited they will be to hear that there's a possibility that some untowardly things took place that led to that air crash. In the first instance, I've listened to the general's interview over and over. He started by saying that he is not an expert in aviation. So that itself speaks volumes. If you are not an expert in something, why go into something this controversial, for God's sake? He spoke about seeing the aircraft at treetop. If you saw an aircraft at treetop, that means the aircraft was almost landing. At the same time, you said the aircraft must have been shot down. If it was already at treetop when you saw it, at what point was it shot down? If it was at treetop, you are talking about 50 feet or less. So at what point must it have been shot down? For you to now come up with this conspiracy theory. But as they say in law, he who alleges has to prove. So it's up to General Attahiru to prove that there's any sort of truth or any reason for anyone who is unbiased to believe what they have said. All right. I've read the report. I've spoken with practically all the people who were there when this incident happened. I actually wanted to be involved in the accident investigation, but the chief insisted then that, look, okay, you know, this thing involves the army. Let's get the NCA, the Air Accident Investigation Board. That's because we have air accident investigations in the Air Force. But he said, let's get the AIB involved so that we will not only be fair, we will also be seen to be fair and neutral.
I
don't know where this theory.
Okay, are you accusing General Ali Keffi then of sour grapes? Because he's also concerned that he was arrested, detained, and that he was the hero that was not allowed to reveal the secrets.
Now, we are talking about a general here, and I, Ade Adekunle, it's not in my character to impugn the integrity of anyone. I have to assume that he's a gentleman, because the GOC 1 div is no ordinary appointment. For the army to have entrusted anybody with such a responsibility, the person must be a gentleman.
All right.
He must be a knowledgeable professional. He must be someone worth his salt. So, it is not up to me to assess his character. It's up to the army to decide whether they have promoted an officer beyond his competence or capability. I like to focus on the professional military aviation aspect or personality or corporate image of the armed forces.
Okay, Air Vice Marshal, good to see you, sir. Good morning. Happy New Year to you. It's very sad that we're talking about this again, and but a couple of things I'd like to ask you. Number one, do you by any chance have read that private report, interim report released, and the recommendations?
I have it right in my front here.
You have read it. What was said? I'd like to ask you what was said in that report, if you have read it. What areas were itemized?
What it said,
as regards the investigation and as regards the data read from the black box?
Oh yes, it spoke about the the speed at the time of impact, the angle of attack. Data, the cockpit voice recorder and the data recorder will only give you certain small indications which an expert will now put together and translate to give you what the ordinary man on the street can make something out of. But what I can tell you from a professional aviator's perspective is that everything I've read in that report tallies with what we assume must have happened.
So it's not assumption. I'm saying the flight data recorder data. What was said in that report about what the flight data recorder recorded?
It's quite a lengthy report. So if you allow me to go to the CVR page, I'll read exactly what it says. Flight data recorder.
Yes.
The following was deduced from the flight data recorder plots attached below. Nigeria, November Golf Romeo 203, departed runway 222 Abuja Airport at so time, and a lot of stuff that are routine.
Yeah, the specific data inference from the flight data recorder.
November Golf Romeo 203, change heading from about 5 degrees to 355 degrees and back, which suggested an orbit. Of course, if you are approaching an airport and you see what appear to be weather approaching, or you are uncomfortable with the approach itself, maybe you think you are too high, you take an orbit, and in the process of that orbit, you lose height or gain height as may be necessary. Then it says at 1704, autopilot was disengaged. November Golf Romeo 233 was at 491 feet radio altitude. Wind direction changed momentarily through 180 degrees. These are small, everyday, recording that you get from a flight data recorder. At 1731 seconds, November Golf Romeo 203 was at 100 feet. This is an aircraft that the general is claiming was shot down. It was still intact at 100 feet.
Okay, so is those parameters would like to pretty much look at and match them up with his claim? At first, he talked about flight routes, the sudden change, the sudden surge in time, the visibility outlook. That's what I deliberately asked. Apart from this, the other question that is very curious is, why has there been no inquest? Because something like this, owing to the fact that we have an antecedent, which was shrouded in a lot of mystery, a la the Italki case in the early 90s, why have there been no inquest as regards what led to the death of very fine, not only, General attahiru, but other fine generals like Brigadier General, Olayinka and a couple of other people that were on that plane? Why has there been no inquest? I'm not talking about the interim report now, but a solid inquest where the public gets a chance to know what really happened. Because till date, as it is with Nigeria, we don't still know what truly happened in the talkie.
when you say talking, I don't really understand which incident you are referring to. Maybe if you mention the aircraft that was involved,
Hercules.
then I'll be able to
The Hercules.
relate to it.
No, I'm talking about the Hercules, the popular Hercules case.
No, I disagree with you, sir. With due respect, the C-130 report is all over the place. It's all over the place. In fact, several newspapers have carried it severally, over and over.
But till date,
there is nothing hidden about the C-130 report.
This is my point, sir. If you can hear me, please hear me out. But till date, there's still a lot of controversy surrounding what was the report itself and the feelings of people. Hence the need for an inquest, not just an AIB now, not just an accident bureau investigation, but an inquest that brings in other parts into it. So I'm asking, why has there been no inquest?
The Nigerian Air Force has taken in all the recommendations that were made consequent upon the C-130 accident. And a lot of them have impacted upon how we operate till today. Be fair to us, between that time and now, have you had any of our C-130s or indeed any of our major aeroplanes involved in such accidents before? The answer is no. When you say relate what is in a report to how people feel, my brother, aircraft operation is an exact science. It's not a question of how I feel. We cannot base, how we operate an aeroplane on how people feel. A general thinks because the army has treated him unfairly, they must have, somebody must have conspired to kill somebody. Jamal, let's be fair to ourselves. If he thinks he has an issue with the army, as a gentleman, as a man that was raised by the same army, he should resolve it within the army. But the issue of inquest, the best inquest you are going to get when it comes to an aircraft accident is an accident investigation report. And in the case of the November Gov 0203, I have one right in my front here. Some of the what you call final reports in some cases take years because maybe perhaps a particular equipment manufacturer has not been able to submit its own findings. And then that's why the final compilation has not taken place. But I can assure you that nobody is trying to hide anything here.
General Ali Keffi was very specific in terms of his prayers. He wants President Tinubu administration to revisit the case. In your view, as someone who was in service at the time, who is very familiar with the accident and the reports, do you think that President Tinubu should take that advice? And if he does, what should the administration be looking out for afresh in terms of the allegations that Ali Keffi has put on the table?
Look, the mere fact that people like you are taking time to ask questions is enough reason for people to be worried. First and foremost, I'm not happy that a man will leave the army after spending the most useful years of his life and live an unhappy. I do not subscribe to that. But the president is a busy man. He's also the father of the nation. If somebody has asked that he takes a second look at an incident or at an issue which I would rather assume that has been thoroughly dealt with by those who are qualified so to do, well, maybe the president should set up a panel. But you have to also bear in mind, what is the end state you seek to achieve by setting up that panel? Because you are going to end up, opening a Pandora box of all kinds of issues. When I say Pandora box, I mean, if you do this now, other people will say, this president is a listening man. Issues that are not supposed to be on the president table, they bring it to the president. I have no problem with the president taking a look at it. The president is a listening man. He takes a long-time view of issue. He's not a man who takes decision as a sprinter. He takes the decision as a marathoner. So let that which will make everybody comfortable be done. But I can assure you, on the basis of what I've read here in this report, nothing But I wouldn't want to say we'll be wasting the president's time. Because even before this report came out, listening to the facts,
All right.
I knew or I could imagine what must have happened. And the deductions, the conclusions they have come to perfectly align with, with the conclusions we reached.
All right. Thank you so very much for your time this morning, Air Vice Marshal Wolahan